Today, I want to talk about the much anticipated, long awaited, for me and my wife anyway, Civil War. Now, just to give you an idea of the anticipation we had for this, we saw trailers for this early on, like everyone else, and we thought just the imagery of it and the cinematography, the way that the trailer was laid out was really enticing. We were just like, just the idea of it, right? The entire idea of the United States being in a modern civil war, and just the imagery that was on screen in that trailer, and kind of the voiceover of it, and the president's speech in the background, and it was captivating. It was like, we got to see this. We have to see this. This looks awesome. The first thing I thought, though, after seeing the trailer was Texas and California would never be in an alliance against the rest of the United States, which is, the basic outline plot of this film. Upon thinking about it, though, there are parts of California that are very conservative, closer to a Texas outlook on things. Basically anywhere outside of big cities. And that would almost be feasible. That, there's been a lot of conversation around, parts of California seceding, and separating from the rest of California and being their own state. So in that sense, I could see it. Like, if you just took out, like, maybe Los Angeles and San Francisco, maybe carved out those areas and made the rest of it the seceding state, I guess I could see that. But anyway, that aside, we were very intrigued by this movie. Stars Kirsten Dunst. And I'll be honest, I wasn't really familiar with anyone else that was in the film. And really, when I watched the trailer, I didn't even, when I was anticipating seeing this film, I wasn't even thinking, oh, this is a Kirsten Dunst movie. It was the idea of the film. It could have been anyone, right? But I like her. I like Kirsten Dunst, but that wasn't the draw for me. So we didn't make it out to the theater to see it. Unfortunately, we wanted to. It's like week after week we talked about going, didn't end up making it. We have very busy lives. We have 3 kids, and we just didn't make it, man. And so we've been anticipating its streaming release for a long time, and finally it dropped on HBO Max this past weekend, and so we got a chance to sit down and watch it. And I've got to say, my wife and I are both kind of in agreement on this. I think she's even a little more harsh than me on it, but it did not live up to expectations. And I've seen a lot of reviews of this, and a lot of it is like more critical acclaim. It's kind of like this existential questioning of what we are and what we could face and all this, where we're at as a country and what would this look like. I guess I get it. Maybe I'm just not smart enough to care that much about all of that. At its core, I was expecting a film about Civil War, and this turned out to be more of a film about the, journalistic integrity, right? Because the film's about following these 4 journalists across the country. They're trying to make it across the country, and actually in the trailer I thought it meant that they were going to be crossing the country. Not really. They're going from New York down to DC, so they're not really crossing the country, which would have been interesting to see what it was like throughout the Midwest and what it was like out west in California, Arizona, places like that, Texas. We didn't get to see that at all. We only got to see what was going on the East Coast. And basically, they're trying to race to the president so they can get a final interview, because everyone is almost sure that what exists of the United States, as it is about to be overrun. The western states, the states that have seceded, are about to move into DC, take out the president, and win the war. And that's the whole story of the film, is them trying to make it there before the Western states do, so that they can get a final interview with the president, because they are sure he is not going to live for much longer. And while there was some really great visceral imagery in this thing, I mean, it was rough. Some of it was rough, like very lifelike depictions of war and urban warfare, and especially in the United States, what would that look like in some of our major cities? You know, battles taking place amongst skyscrapers and small towns and what have you along the East Coast. It's crazy to imagine. It's an interesting thought experiment to think about what that would look like. And this film gives you a lot of what it probably would look like, as long as we weren't using nuclear arms on each other, what it would actually look like. And it was, in that sense, gripping. All of the action sequences, the war sequences, amazing. Amazing. Terrifying, really. But overall, the film was kind of boring. And I get that that's kind of what it was going for. Like this, you're following these journalists and their struggles with what is journalism, and how do we portray this without actually being a part of it, and create something for people to make their judgments from, not for us to make judgments on. And I get what it was doing, and sure, that's interesting, but it was not what I was expecting from this film. That's not what I was going in looking for. So overall, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I thought it would. It did some really interesting things. It did a little bit of what I was hoping to see, but not nearly enough. And like I said, maybe if I was more of an intellectual, more of a person that cared about breaking down what journalism is, et cetera, and going into like these existential thoughts on war and civil war specifically, and the American way of life and what that looks like when it breaks down, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. And it's like, I can even enjoy that if that's what I was going in expecting to see, wanting to see, but I was kind of going in more to see the intricacies of war itself and the political ongoings, right? And the actual battles that were taking place, which we got a little bit of. We got almost no political stuff whatsoever, which I would have been very interested to see what that looked like. They did just enough to make it seem familiar and what it could look like if this really happened here in the United States, but also they did just enough to not really have it mirror any specific political party or anything that was going on currently, so that it wasn't as divisive. Now, I'm sure it was divisive in many respects, and people have their ideas of like what the Western states were and what the existing United States were, and how they relate to today's country and political makeup. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job of not making it about any specific political stance, which kind of goes in line with what the movie was. It was about journalistic integrity and not picking a side necessarily, but just showing truth, right? Showing what's actually happening and letting other people make their decisions based on that. So it was good in that sense, but overall kind of boring. My wife fell asleep the first night, and she's into that type of stuff. It's not like she's not into action films at all, so could have been something that grabbed her interest, but I think it was just a little bit of a slog, a little bit of a drag. The first night we tried to watch it, she fell asleep, so I said, let's pause it here and we'll continue tomorrow. We finished it the next night, and overall at the end, she said that movie was terrible, and I said, well, I don't think it was terrible, but it definitely wasn't what I was looking for, and I expected more out of it. Like I said, that could be just my own bias of what I wanted to see going in. So overall, what are you going to do? It had some good stuff. It had some boring stuff. I wouldn't call any of it bad. It wasn't bad filmmaking. It was just not really for me, unfortunately, because I was really hyped about it. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you think I'm way off base? Do you agree with me 100%? Was it the most boring thing? Or do you agree with my wife? Was it the most boring thing you've ever watched in your life? let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in videos like this or podcasts where I discuss entertainment, pop culture, that sort of thing, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you do decide to stick around and subscribe, then I'll talk to you all again real soon. Thanks.